Hello friends, hello everyone. This is July the 18th, I'm recording this. We are getting into a super interesting window of time of preparation, of final preparations for some really big event in August. That's my prediction, and I will tell you in this episode the build up to that point, which is August the 1st, August the 2nd, when Mars entered that critical window, coming back to where it stationed in October 2022 and where it went direct again in January 2023, all within the sign of Gemini. So this really says with Mars returning into Gemini just the eve of this full moon, you see. Here is Mars 023, so just short before this new moon on this coming Sunday, Mars enters Gemini and gets into this place where it re-manifests its intentions, which started back then when it kind of ran into a wall, you could say, ran into the ceiling, had to retreat for 8 weeks or so into January 2023, and then simultaneously on that day when Mars turned direct, you remember, or maybe not, that was when that comet had its closest approach, the green comet, which was labeled as the one which would really awaken all the sleeping giants, so to say, all the sages and witches and those who are actively working toward the new Earth, the new era we are getting into. So this is all encapsulated in this Mars return. It gets reinvigorated and really activated now with Jupiter in Gemini as well, particularly, and Jupiter and Mars will meet finally on August the 14th, right in the center of that window which I gave you. So that is future music. Right now I'm talking of the preparation, how we're getting there, and what just recently happened, and what that means for the new paradigm which has been ignited. In a way, that is exactly what happened on the 13th of July with that big world event down in the US, which everybody knew was some time coming. It was obvious to everyone, and it was also obvious that something of that magnitude could happen on that kind of spoken about a lot Mars-Uranus conjunction of the 15th of July, it was exact, so that was just short before Mars and Uranus were meeting here when this event happened, and many astrologers had spoken of Algol, the eye of Medusa. It's kind of a difficult star, and they were aligning with on that day. So it made total sense what happened. However, I had not really spoken about that conjunction, but I found it had most likely a positive outcome. That's what I privately shared with my friends, because it's not just the Algol is there, that is where the Pleiades are in the sky in the last degrees of Taurus into early degrees of Gemini. The Pleiades, which are traditionally linked to the expansion of consciousness, of entering a higher level of reality. I mean, the Pleiadian nations are probably, at least some of these star systems, it's 7 sisters, it's 7 big suns, and there's multitude of planets there which are inhabited by highly advanced species, races who are up to 100,000 years ahead of Earth's present kind of where we are evolutionary wise, if we look at the bigger pictures of where we can evolve eventually over long periods of time, become a truly enlightened society. So that is all that energy too in those nth degrees of Taurus, early Gemini. So that is really which is actually much stronger than Algol. Algol, yes, is kind of a tricky one. I just had it on my progress sun for the last 2 years, so I can definitely tell you firsthand, it's throwing you a few curveballs of what you didn't see coming, kind of, and naturally that event too was of that nature. However, also in that segment of Taurus, this is hexagram 8 overlapping. If you go into the correlation with the 64 I Ching hexagrams, again, link to the breakdown of the 64 hexagram around the zodiac in the description of the video. As always, all the links there, please go there for further research. It's an incredibly powerful addition to traditional astrology to work with these 64 hexagrams, as has been channeled through this channel who brought in the human design system in 1987, which is a story on it by itself. But it is extremely valuable information, and it should not be dismissed just because it was channeled. I know there's lots of so-called things channeled which are definitely not all having the quality they should have. Anyway, the long story short, that is hexagram 8, which is here in this segment between 2430 and 007 in Gemini. Hexagram 8, union, bringing people together, unifying. It's that same energy as a coherence, building a coherence, bringing the waves into harmonization with each other. A very, very beautiful energy in that sense. And for that reason, I expected whatever the event would be, the particular, it would be having a positive what is the word? Result, whatever, you get it. Sometimes my words are missing, sorry. Anyway, so let's see how we look at what this full moon chart is showing, because this is really, really an exciting chart. I mean, I told you 3-4 weeks ago this would be a really building up to that moment of the 20th around of July, and from there on we would definitely enter a whole new dynamic, which, yes, has opened its doors already on the 13th naturally, and we're building up to the fullness of the wave which will be reached on the full moon. Now, interesting, I just want to roll back a little bit before we go once more back to this chart, because, I mean, you see, it's obvious. Let me first say a few things about it, because it's really a powerful chart with the moon and Pluto in conjunction full moon, and it is a 30th degree moon. However, it is not void of course. This is very different. Usually when moons are in the last degree of a sign, they are most often running into the void, or in that more confused left brain state of, yes, a right brain state. Yes, I have really a left-right issue here. I know, that's been my issue my whole life. I never know where is left and where is right. Anyway, that's another story. But when I say it is not running into the void, means this is a very focused moon, and it is in the degree where Pluto will get back into not too far in the future, this, I guess, in September or so, for a few more months. So it's preparing the ground on a bigger scale for Pluto to re-enter that sign. So this full moon coming will set the deep imprint, which we will roll back into later this year and fully get activated then. But you see, it has a beautiful big trine between Mars, mainly here at the lead, in the very first degree of Gemini, being the planet of lowest degree, in that sense taking on the lead, pushing into the new energy, into the unknown, so to say. This Gemini energy, which has been warmed up not just with Jupiter and being in there now for the whole next whatever 10 months still to come, but also Sedna, which is in that beautiful long-term trine with Pluto here in the first degree of Aquarius. So I mentioned it often, this is one of the real base notes of what's happening in our present time, that big beautiful trine between Pluto, the one which turns everything on the ground on its head. That's literally what Pluto does, turns everything on its head, and brings change in really a huge magnitude, as we experienced through the last 15 years in the sign Capricorn, really bringing out all the outcrops of what power really means to its ultimate peak, which we definitely will revisit in these last few months of the year, to then bring the final break into the new energy of Aquarius. But this is another story. What I really want to emphasize, this is a long-term transit which is standing as a wave in that sense, and Sedna is the one which brings that all those mysteries from the deep sea, from the abyss. That's where Sedna is reigning, where she is the goddess of the deep sea, of all the mysteries, and the deep sea is less known than outer space, really. So there's lots of, it's a big vault of energy, and that all coming into Gemini. I mean, if you imagine this planet Sedna is coming back from an 11,400 year orbit, so it has lots and lots of information stored, archived. That all is coming out, and it is definitely a galactic messenger in that sense, coming in from deep space, truly immersed in that ocean of cosmic reality, interstellar space. That's really what that deep sea represents. So anyway, this is super exciting, and this has been activated with the black moon entering Libra just about 3 weeks ago now, and I guess I have observed it. It has really brought the focus onto relationships, and also onto really bringing all the, I would say, what is not really harmonizing between people into the limelight. They have to look at it. It's brought into the open. So we might all really go through some sort of relationship issues, because we are looking at aspects we have been avoiding so far. We are ready to look into it and to really get into a higher level of relating with one another and respecting one another. That's really where this goes, and this full moon is exactly saying that. Come to your center and relate from a truly neutral point. That's what Libra really is at its core, a place where we weigh things and give and do not interfere, but really watch for where the balancing point is at this point, and then try to put more weight into the other ball to really make it equal. And the South Node, this brings me now to the South Node, which is in a very powerful degree now. Actually, it started a little earlier, and I'm just going back to this chart here. That is okay. So yep, that is the week we're in right now still, and you see it has the nodes in the horizon axis of Greenwich, that fractal place which we astrologers, many of us, use as looking at Earth as a whole, how planetary energies interact. The nodes in the ascendant-descendant axis, this is really a coming back to the core quest of our times. And now this first quarter moon, as I say, let me just play you a few charts. I won't stay long there. I just want to show you a few things. this first quarter moon was surrounded by two big events. The one I was just speaking before, which happened just, you see, 13th of July, 10:48 p.m. and that in universal time would be 10:11 p.m. So just short before that first quarter moon, you see 21:59, 21:42, was that kind of shock which went around the globe. That could be actually the one which Q was referring to, the shot that has been heard around the globe. Those of you who know more about all of that will definitely draw the conclusions out of that, that something really has started rolling down the hill which gains momentum. And 4 hours and a bit later we had this X1.3 solar flare. It's really a prime example again how it works, that whenever something of great magnitude happens on this planet which pushes the emotional frequencies up, which is really bringing the collective humanity into a whole new frequency, it's doubled or mirrored by a big solar event. It's really amazing, the synchronicity. Sometimes it happens a few hours prior, sometimes a few hours later, but you can really be taking poison, as we say in German, when you're certain about something. When something big happens in that vicinity, we always will have a big solar flare. Not always, but very, very often, because there's always exceptions. And you have to leave doors open for that. But what I want to say, this solar flare, I mean, look at the axis of the mid-heaven, midnight, the power axis, really the consciousness axis, where our focus goes, where we are as a collective in that moment nourished from below and above as a globe. This, and I don't really want to say any names today, but this candidate's ascendant is at 29:55 in Leo, and Australia here close, Australia the one which is resolving problems, but also because it is in that job description of resolving problems, first of all it travels to the side and encounters it and looks at it and experiences it. That is always the first step in any process. First we have to become accustomed, acquainted with the situation, and really experiencing it from inside out. That's why Australia usually is more of a challenger in one's chart. It really guides us to accept the task and the job and do the work, even if one has to get one's hands dirty and get really involved also on an emotional level. All of that on the ascendant of this one person. And we are staying with Australia for a moment. I just also want to show you the similarity of this ascendant here. So this flare on the July the 14th. Now let's go back here quickly to the full moon chart. The X-class flare has already charged up that 4th degree of Cancer, 4th degree of Capricorn. Naturally, always both polarities are involved, and it's kind of almost prepared us for that next big build up into early August. Now this is really the chart I'm wanting to get involved in here for a few minutes. Now this is when the lunar node backwards crossed the 10 degree Aries mark, which was on the 14th, again just not long after these two big events. You see the moon meanwhile is at 27:38. If we go back here quickly, it was had its quarter station 2200, which in itself is interesting. Two double numbers, that's rare. That already gave the indication that something extraordinary would evolve around this time, and sure enough, that was just an hour or so prior, and then the solar flare a few hours passed. But what really is see here again the 5th degree actually of Cancer and of Capricorn here on the first quarter moon. So there's 3 charts with that exact same main signature, the full moon, the first quarter moon. We are still in, as I'm recording this, building up to that full moon, and then the big flare has that same signature shortly after that first quarter moon. And the first quarter moon, by the way, is really a powerful place in the lunar cycle, because it turns the moon from an inner planet to an outer planet. That's literally what happens between, well, around new moon. That's just the moon is within Earth's orbit toward the sun. After the first quarter moon moves out, meeting with the outer planets, getting into that sphere of affairs, a very big turning point in that sense. The moon turning to more of a public and collective experience, versus in the other half where it's within Earth's orbit closer to the sun. It is much more of a personal experience. This just as a general observation. You can go into your chart and see if you're more kind of that person who is involved in a more personal world, or if you're more exposed and involved in the public and the collective, having a moon which is in that sphere, which connects with the outer planets. Anyway, so this is really the chart which I want to go into just for a sec. When the lunar node crossed that line into the first decant, means 9:59:59 naturally, which is the 4th decant, the decant of Aries. The first 10 degrees are Aries, double Aries, versus the middle 10 degrees are Aries Leo, and here Aries Sag. But also if we do the dwad, which is the 12 fractals of 2.5 degrees, which are resonating with the 12 signs. So this is the 4th dwad now the node is in, which is the Cancer dwad. It came in from the Leo dwad from 12:30 till 10 degrees. Now we're in the Cancer dwad. So we're in the cardinal signs, both Aries, and then the Cancer addition, which makes it super important in sense of changing the direction in a very basic way. So these next weeks before it crosses into 7 degrees and 30 minutes will be triple cardinal, if you want, in terms of igniting a more precise evolutionary direction. Now the 10th degree of Aries, again the Sabian symbols, where the lunar node will be here for quite a while. It's very slow right now. Is a teacher gives new symbolic forms to traditional images. So this is a great time for expanding one's horizon. Revision of attitude at the beginning of a new cycle of experience. A new cycle of experience. That's really what we got into with this event. It was you could call it a sacred wound which was inflicted on the collective. There was a big realization how little was, how this man's life hang literally on a hair. It's that Damocles sword hanging overhead thing which can fall any moment. It got that urgency. And this is not just people who are supporting this man, it is everyone had this experience in their own right. It opened new doors, it opened new insights, new mud came up to the surface too, as it exposed certain people having had conspired on this event. So this was really a turning point, and with the lunar node just on the heels of this event to turn into that 10th degree. And then look at the moon, where the moon is here in this chart, 2738, and a few hours later Australia, which we just talked about, the one who is taking on problems and challenges, changes signs, and this is the ascendant. It's a day or two later, you see, 17th of July, and here is the ascendant in Greenwich. That very same degree means what has been prepared here, if the lunar nodes setting the pace, setting the emotional content, which the moon could be said to hold that position of representing the mode, the emotional mode of how we deal with this energy, which is in hexagram 50, beautiful, the cauldron, which is getting ready, cooking a wonderful meal. It's that beautiful cauldron with the wood fire underneath, and you're cooking something beautiful, and it is exactly what is happening. Something big is getting cooked, getting ready, and this will manifest sometimes, as I say, between August 1st and 28th, most likely with Australia and Virgo. Yes, this will be for a few weeks, certainly into September. And then okay, now I'm just building my case a little stronger. You see, let's go back to the full moon here. What I want to point out is this early degrees cardinal axis, and this gets reinforced, and that's why I want to go back to this chart, because the full moon is truly the turning point where things start rolling down the mountain. But to make my case, this is when Jupiter, just a couple days ago, entered that very powerful hexagram. Where is it? I cannot talk and find things. Here it is. Jupiter 11, 22, 30 to be exact. Hexagram 35, which is progress. That is the sun rising out of the earth. I guess that's, yes, that is what it is. Hexagram 35, sun rising above the horizon. Jupiter, this is an energy which brings things into the light, you could say. Very expansive. It's kind of the heart piece of the sign Gemini. Well, I shouldn't truly say that. Gemini is such a special sign. Pretty much all the hexagrams have a very powerful expression, starting with hexagram 20, which is contemplation, then enthusiasm, which we just had the last few weeks. I made a video about that when Jupiter entered that hexagram. And now in 35, which is progress, really speeding up things, expanding, very expansive energy. And then we are getting into even more so 45, which is amassing and really even a stronger confluence than hexagram 8, which we just looked at, which is actually at the very start of Gemini. So Gemini is a super dynamic energy up to 28, 15, actually no, it starts early, 22, 32, 22, 37, 30, when it enters stand still. That is when really things come to a halt, reaching the ceiling, literally those few days, just when the sun can't go higher into the sky anymore, just before summer solstice. That's the symbolic energy behind it. Anyway, the long story short, Jupiter in that hexagram is definitely heralding some truly important breakthroughs to come in the next few weeks as well. And yes, it is again the early degrees, this time in the horizon descendant axis. Ascendant descendant, where really the touchdown is between the two polarities, where things happen, versus the central axis, where the power is held, where the energy is fed into the system, you could say. And then just to round things up with the lunar nodes, then also in the hexagrams change into a new energy. Just before we were discussing the dwad and decant way of structuring the sign. And then when we go into the 64 hexagrams, yes, you have also always again an additional one, yet another layer, as I said before. So this is big too on the 19th. That's just coming as we speak, initiating this weekend. This will be again a longer period of time, of many weeks, at least 6 weeks, with hexagram 17 and 18. Now what is this energy? 17 is a super spiritual frequency of going right into the core of a new path, embracing it full-heartedly, versus 18 is work on what has been spoiled. This is a very, very interesting hexagram. As it says, it is the time of cleaning up, of taking real action on what has gone wrong and correcting it, bringing it back to where it should be. And this is the south node. That means this is really what is available as an asset. We can just activate that by moving into this energy of faith and trust and fully embracing what is existence delivering. It is truly that pioneer spirit of early Aries, which is at its strongest almost in this hexagram, because it's almost, it can't help. It is so thrilled by its own breaking open and expanding and embracing reality in a whole new way. It's these early days in spring. We just have come over the edge into the new energy. This is the first hexagram fully in the sign of Aries. The one prior still is really starting in Pisces, which is 25 innocence, which is kind of that igniting energy, but it's still very reserved and in a balance, and then kicks in that kind of all of a sudden it's become real. It's something new is in. We have come through the transition. That is kind of the energy this hexagram brings, hexagram 17. And then within this sign, also you will have the conjunction of the lunar node with the black moon. They move toward each other. So this is early September we are speaking about. This definitely it will be kind of a critical time in the bigger forecast, I would say. We're going through some great breakthroughs in August, but they will also be breakdowns on many fronts, and probably there's a collapse in banking system and things like that. So be careful. That is likely the direction we are going, of a big breakdown of society at large, because this is really Pluto at work. And then with Pluto getting back into Capricorn, this might be a last resort then of the other forces to regain control, and then things get even likely even a little more chaotic, but by then we will be in a place of knowing how to deal with that, because the power of light is really building so fast and so strong. I mean, again, this early degree of Capricorn, this in itself is one of the most important degrees of the zodiac in my opinion. This is the direction the whole solar system is moving towards. That's what's called the solar apex. It's roughly between 2 and 3 degrees. Capricorn at this point in history, the direction the whole solar system moves towards, the solar apex. So it is the direction of evolution in a much more cosmic way seen. So yeah, so I have really big expectations for these next few weeks. Actually, for the whole 10 degrees the lunar node has left in Aries, this will be really setting new standards before we then get back into Pisces, which is a whole new level of this novel, you could say. We are living, we are manifesting. It's a Shakespearean drama. That's really what it is, and we have to allow for the extremes to be played out. We just have to kind of brace ourselves in a way that we are having a strong foothold, can withstand a strong gust of wind, not thrown out of position. That's kind of how it feels. So, but I guess it is increasingly more people are coming to the place where they actually, it is really the last call. I would call it the last call of coming to that place of embracing what is in a positive way, wanting to participate in the evolution in that direction where we have to go, unless we will go towards extinction. It's a pretty clear path at this point, in my opinion. So once more, going back to the moment when Mars will enter Gemini, which, as I said, is just in the 4th night of this full moon, which is coming Saturday, the 20th. See the moon at 21:06 here in Capricorn, just 7 degrees shy. Actually in hexagram 61, inner truth, very beautiful, in conjunction, quite close to conjunction with Arrokoth, which is all about seeing the bigger picture and all at once, when every piece of the puzzle falls in place, where you can see the panorama, the open sky. That's what really it is meaning, the name Arrokoth, standing under the open sky. The whole panorama is open to you in inner truth. I said it many times. This is the window of finding truth in a bigger way, and this is a very slow planet, 300 years plus it takes around the sun. So it is in this hexagram roughly between 2020 and 2026, I guess. So this that whole 5-year window. But whenever the moon makes an exact conjunction or any other planet, this is brought more to the foreground, but it is simmering at low pace for all those 5-6 years. Anyway, with Mars entering Gemini, with the moon here on this degree, this is very promising. And the Aquarian rising, naturally, this tunes into the comet, which I mentioned. That is its main direction, that green comet which had its closest approach in January 2023. The one which I referred to, I will put the link underneath to the channeling by Magenta Pixie, which really goes into the spiritual aspects of what this awakener was bringing in. And it is that direction that comet has come from and is going back into, which is a 50,000 year orbit. So that linked us back into the Lemurian culture. So there's lots and lots going on, and really showing that Mars is the planet to pay attention to over the next time. And that is what we will do in my next recording. Just the final chart, which I already have out here for the whole time sitting, is the Leo ingress, which is just happening a few hours after this full moon, then with an Aquarius moon and Leo sun, which is still a full moon, and with the sun also changing signs. This is kind of like full moon chart number 2, you could say, because the first full moon in that sense, the exact full moon is in Cancer, the sun and the full moon in Capricorn. However, as soon a few hours later, you see this is 10:17 a.m. in universal time, and this is the day after 7:44 a.m. Excuse me, I have to drink a sip here. Very dry throat. Yeah, I'm always talking too much. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying it. So this is where we are ending, and just want to point out this one. I mean, there's one thing I forgot mentioning. You see Jupiter here? That is Mars Gemini ingress. So you already can tell when Mars will come to embrace Jupiter, August 14. This is kind of the high point we're getting towards, kind of the central line, plus minus 2 weeks. Jupiter right here at the source point, yes, this will be an exciting time. That's what it's basically saying, and this is then the Leo ingress of the Sun, Mars and Uranus here at the helm of the chart. Mars by that time within 1 minute of arc embracing Sedna. How about that? Yes, it's epic times we're living in, and we are just getting into the eye of the hurricane. We're still kind of at that event horizon place before fully in, which will be anywhere between, I would say, roughly August coming and January, February next year. This is the core window of transformation. Yes, it will be even going to higher levels eventually, but I mean, breakthroughs happen in stages, and we already had quite a few of those, to be honest. So it's really like a waterfall, but this is a big drop we are just facing, and which will really change the world in a whole new direction. Thank you for being here, for joining, listening, and please give it a like, please subscribe, please share if you are thrilled by my message, if you like to hear have your friends also hear what I have to say. Again, links under the video in the description to follow up and also to connect and give feedback. It's very appreciated. Thank you so much for being here again. Love you all.